third Sunday. I think the third Sunday of the month. I think third Sunday of the month from 3 to 4. I don't know why I always forget that. but I am happy to be here one more day on the face of this earth just to talk with you one more day. It is a blessing. This is the day the Lord hath made. I will be glad and rejoice in it. I will be glad and rejoice in it. I need to thank Pastor Wall, who's producing behind the scenes. Thank you so much, Pastor Wall. Also, to thank my hubby for driving me here. God bless him. He's probably listening, so thank you so much, honey. I always appreciate that, all that you do. Ladies always appreciate your husband. It's always a blessing. And again, who am I? And why am I here? Why am I here? Because I'm here to talk to you about Christians always need to stand up. We are the salt and light of the earth. And God has left us here to be salt and light. Now, do we always want to feel like being salt and light? No, not necessarily. The flesh and the spirit, right? What? They war against each other. You don't feel like eating broccoli. You don't feel like exercising. You don't feel like reading that book. The flesh don't feel like doing nothing. But you do what is required, what's necessary, and it's required. So I am here just for another day. I'm blessed to be one more day here on the land of the living, and to proclaim the good news. And the good news is that the Lord reigns, and as His Christians, we are His watchmen. And I want to thank my hubby for that word this day, because that's what we are. We are on the tower. And when I think of Morality Moves, I was driving down, I said, that's what we are. We're watchmen, watchwomen. When we are watching the progression and the pervasiveness of just evil, just continuing like a tsunami, just continuing going forward. But as Christians, we are the watchmen / watchwomen. And our job here is to see and proclaim. So when I come to you before you on Morality Moves is to proclaim, is to see and proclaim faith and works. And I thank God again for Pastor Wall that he has this station, because I said this aligns with what I'd like to do. I like to do is just tell people of what's wrong and right. And Morality Moves is exactly that, moving in morality. And you might say, Jacqueline, but whose morality? It ain't my morality. I've just been here on this earth for a little bit, so I don't have much to say. I have something to say, but not much to say. But as a Christian, I've been walking with the Lord many years, and my morality is in the good book, the only book. And the Bible says, Philippians 4:8, that whatsoever is pure, whatsoever is noble, whatsoever good report, think of these things. Also to Matthew 17. Always remember Matthew 17, because 7 times 2 is 14. That's my trick. That's one of my tricks to learn things. Matthew 17. God says, narrow is the way. I didn't say it. That leads to eternal life. He said, few find it. But he said, broad is the way that leads to destruction. And he says, many are on it. So God's ways are narrow. So when I come before you, it's not my way. It's God's way that I'm talking about. So it's His narrow way. And God has the right to say what's up and what's down. And this is becoming the generation of those who call good evil and evil good. But today and every time I come on this mic, I'm coming in what God calls good and what God calls bad. So when I define morality, that's my definition again. I define it on what God says. And again, I say, I'm following the one. I'm a fan of the one who knows my beginning and my end, and the dash in between. So follow the one who made you. Follow the one who's got the Bible, the basic instruction before leaving earth. That's the one I'm following. And I suggest we all do the same. So when I talk to you about Morality Moves, that's what I'm talking about. I'm doing, again, the landscape of what this world looks like. I don't get tired of sounding the alarm. I'm never going to get tired of that, because a lot of foolishness is going up in here. And like I said, I come with my broom. I don't have it today, but I come with a mental broom. Like we come to clean and sweep and clean. Like when Christians show up, we are the light of the world. What does the light have to do? Just show up. Turn on the light. Show up. Martin Luther King says that the church should be the headlight. Nothing new, not the tail light. And we should be standing firm now. Now that the new school district is coming up, come on, Christians, let's come up and show out for our kids. Let's show up in the PTA meetings, the council meetings, the elections. We need to show up and show out. And so we're going to show out and do right this year. So as I talk about that, and I say every time I come, there's so much to talk about, but I like to stay focused with Christian morale in terms of the media and the content and how lyrics and how music lyrics and videos is really negatively affecting our children. That's my emphasis. There's a lot to talk about. Boy, I could be here all day. It could be here all day, but I can't. I can only be here for an hour. So my focus is talking about what is specifically going on. And you might say, but Jacqueline, what's the big deal, right? Let's go along to get along. Go along to get along, Jacqueline. What we see in the media doesn't really you can't really tell. It doesn't really come out what happens down the road. What you see and what you do, there's two different, that doesn't coincide, but it always has. It always has. I think I told you about last time when I was here, and I was happy to talk to you about that. Esther Roll. When I say the word Esther Roll, you say, who's Esther Roll? She was the mother on Good Times. And in 1974, she went up to Norman Lear, the producer at that time. She was going to have her own radio show her own TV show at that time, Good Times. And I grew up watching Good Times. And she took a stand back in 1970s. She was going to be the main character, Esther Roll. And she looked and saw it, and she was going to be a single mother. Now I'm going somewhere with this. And she said, wait a minute. Millions of people are going to watch this show. This is in the 1970s. She goes, I do not want to be portrayed as another single mother, emphasizing that negative characterization of women at that time. She goes, I don't want to be a single mother living in the ghetto in Chicago without a father figure. She's like, I grew up with a father figure. She said that on Essence magazine. And I'm reading this. This is the 1970s. You think this was 2023. People are scared to stand up. She's like, wait a minute, Norman. And they didn't know who she was. She could have been famous and gotten a lot of money. She's like, I'm not going to do this unless you put a father figure in the house. I'm like, what in the world? And I bring those stories because she made the difference. She goes, no, I grew up with a father figure. I want a father figure. So he's like, all right now. And James came in the picture. James came in the picture until James took himself off with arguing down the road and got himself killed on the show. But that's a whole nother thing. It's a whole nother thing. But Esther got James there. And when we look at Good Times, the reruns and all that, those were my favorite shows. Esther did that. You're like, wait a minute. So she said, no, this is what a family should look like. Mother and father there. By one person made the difference. Sidney Poitier as well. He said, I am not going to be depicted. Now, he didn't have a lot of choices with roles either. This was during, a lot of racism. And Sidney Poitier, he said, no, I'm not going to characterize myself in these negative stereotypical roles. And he said, no, this is not what I'm going to do. Chadwick Boseman, the one who did the Panthers, Black Panthers, he also stood up against that. Against his career, said, no, I want to do pictures that are positive or that have some type of moral bent to them. And that's why he played the baseball player Jackie Robinson. He played these great figures in time because he took a stand. He was known as that person. So don't ever tell me what we see on TV and what we digest that it's not going to affect us. No, we are body, soul, and spirit. That's why I'm always going to push back on that. Also, too, in 2010, and also, too, if they could stand back in that time and say, no, for the generations to come, I'm taking a stand. And are we taking a stand? Are we sitting down? Are we sitting down letting other people do what they got to do and say, this is not going to affect me or generations or kids to come. No, it's going to affect us. And your silence, Martin Luther King says, your silence will hurt us. So that's why I come before you, say, no, no, no. You see something, like they said during that time, see something, say something. And we are required to say something. 2010, the American Psych Association Task Force realized that there is a problem. Wait a minute, there's a problem. They concluded that the sexualization of girls in media is a serious societal problem, and the consequences of teenage boys are no less grave. In other words, the girls and the boys of the sexualization of girls in media. That was the American Psych Association Task Force. They had to create a task force because they realized, wait a minute, how girls are seeing themselves in the media, they're reacting to it negatively. They're reacting to it negatively. And so the profanity, the sexualization of just the lyrics, that is affecting how young girls and even young boys are growing up. And when I see all of that, and when I see all the foolishness of all this, and again, I don't go up against the Megan Stallions or Belcadis, that's Cardi B, because it's not them, it's the industry. Quite frankly, I bet if we gave them another opportunity, they would have probably sung different songs. But as we see the pervasiveness of just perversion, and I can't even read the lyrics. I'm in a church. I cannot read these lyrics and how far we've become. And what do you hear about that? Exactly. Silence. Silence. That's exactly what you hear. And our young babies and kids are just eating that stuff up. Now, if we saw poison on here, if you're gonna drink some sugar, and somebody put strychnine in it, you gonna drink that? No, you ain't, right? 'Cause gonna kill you, right? It's gonna kill you. But we are allowing our kids to be digesting stuff with the F word, the S word, all this stuff and all these things, and you just hear absolutely nothing. And then we're surprised when our kids react the way we do, how they're sexually active, they're effing bombing and all this stuff, and we don't put the two together. We don't put the two together. That's a shame. And it has always, you don't need, and I'll go some more topics, we don't need stats to know that what's wrong is wrong, what's right is right. Everyone knew smoking is bad for you. Your body tells you. God has given you a sense of preservation, how to take care of yourself. You know wrong and right. God has put that clock in us. We've known people growing up back in the 30s and 40s, they're puffing away. No cigarette smoking is bad. It's bad. Did you know that in 1964 the Surgeon General finally came out with a report saying cigarette smoke causes lung cancer and heart disease? 1964 came out with that. But they had to come out with that because people were just getting sick. But they knew, but they kept pushing it out because it looks cool, it looks fun. At the cause of what? At the cause of death. Same thing as the Rachel Carson during the presidency of Kennedy. She came out saying, "Wait a minute." She wrote a book called Silent Spring. She was a biologist, Rachel Carson, this one woman who had cancer at the time in the 60s. And she said, "Wait a minute. I'm seeing the birds dying. I see when they keep spraying this funny chemical in the air, the birds are dying. The streams, the streams are looking kind of funny." I said, "Something's going on with these chemical sprayings in our food." And the big farmer like, "Oh, no, you're just a woman. You don't know what you're talking about. No, ain't nothing going on there." She said, "Wait a minute, something's going on." And she kept sounding that alarm. One person. She said, "Wait a minute. People are getting sick by this stuff." Rachel Carson. Read the book Silent Springs in 1960s. And she brought it up to Kennedy. Kennedy's like, "No, I think we're okay." Because big money talks, right? But she was that one lone wolf. And she was going through chemo and cancer at the time. And she eventually died a couple of years later after she was able to help pass legislation, the EPA, which was helped form because of this one person saying, wait a minute, something going on. Things are dying when you spray this funny stuff in the air, up in the sky. It's going to go in our food. And I think we're going to digest that, and that don't help us. And I see the birds and the birds dying, the fish, something going on when you spray that stuff in the air. There's chemicals, there's correlation, because God gave us a brain, right and wrong. Eventually, because she kept going in front of Congress, she kept saying, wait a minute, this is wrong, stop this stuff. Until eventually they had to listen to her because she had the data, because she was a researcher and she wrote books. She said, wait a minute, something's going on here. And eventually she got their attention. And thank God for Rachel Carson. Thank God for Rachel Carson because of that. So we see things going on nowadays, and we're like the emperor got no clothes on. Oh, no, he ain't got no clothes, but let's pretend that he ain't got no clothes. Oh, okay, right? But God sees what we're doing. No, he ain't got no clothes on. You gotta say what it is. And will you be unpopular for it? Of course. But truth is always unpopular. You know, Winston Churchill said that truth is so popular that it's guarded with the bodyguard of lies, the truth. And so what I'm saying is that when you see wrong, now who's wrong? When you see wrong, get in the fight. Speak up, use your voice, because if Rachel Carson didn't use her voice, we probably would have had the EPA, but eventually it would have came out that way. The Environmental Protection Act. So if you see something, say something. The American Psychological Association, with all the sexualization of media, they said media. That's what I'm saying now in 2023. They said in 2010. But you hear anything else saying it? No, you're just saying it's cool. You're saying, no, there's a great correlation between the two. Especially young ladies, young men. Young ladies, young men. I mean, we've gotten to the point that we're saying, like, Cardi B, whores in the house and all this other stuff. I can't even say more than that. Or we're saying that gender is a social construct, that there's no man or woman. I mean, we are pushing the pendulum to the far, really far away, really far away. And we're gonna hold, and God's gonna hold us accountable in our generation to the young kids that are falling behind us. So that's where we come up and say, nope, this is not going on. Nope, this is what we need to do, and we need to stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves. That's what God calls us to do, and He still calls us to do that. And I'm gonna always remind us that the truth and standing up for the truth is never popular. But who says it's supposed to be popular? It's just supposed to be the truth. It's just to be the truth. Christ is very narrow. He says that He is the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father except for Him. So the truth is always very convicting. The truth is, unpopular. But hey, we're not here to be popular. You're here to tell the truth, and so help us God. Tell the truth, and I'm always reminded of people who came before us who said, no, this is the right way. Go in it. Let me tell you about, let me see. I always have so many different stories to tell. And so many different stories to tell. But one of the stories I'd like to talk about is A. Philip Randolph. I think I talked to you about that, who was able to get the Pullman porters together. That was during the time of really 1930s, 1920s, get the Pullman porters together and talking about a union of difficult times. They were all called George. It was a very difficult time, and he was able to put them all together. They had difficult working conditions. They had 24-hour jobs. They slept 1 or 2 hours. And it was a very difficult situation. But he was able to get all those Pullman porters together and also unionize against that and say, no, we want certain rights. And because of that one person, A. Philip Randolph, they were able to get certain rights so they wouldn't have those very unjust working conditions. And why do I bring that up is that one person always makes a difference when you have many people behind it and you change generations following. I always believe that the good Lord, when he expects us to live in a place that's respectful, that we're treating people kind, we're protecting people, and we're speaking up for an injustice and not just walking by. And how in our time today, the generation that we're living in, we're seeing so many injustices. And even a phone call you can make, even a kind word, but something that you can say to change the atmosphere. And you might say, Jacqueline, it's just so many things to do. And I hear you. Sometimes I look back and say, oh, Lord, there's so many things to do. But people never really gave up, though. They kept fighting. They kept trying to do what's right. They never really stopped fighting. And neither should we. And I say, if you see a situation, if you see something, especially going back to school, look at the curriculum. Look at the sexual education going on. School was hard enough as it is, trying to get all the sex ed and all the sex curriculum. It is not healthy. It is not healthy. I do say parents to get out and really find out what's happening with the sex education, with the kids, and see what's transpiring now in the school system, to really be at the school meetings, because it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village. At the council meetings, I used to attend council meetings. I remember they used to have them in the afternoon. I'm like, how in the world people are going to go to these meetings? Sometimes, or sometimes they were really inconvenient. But be there. Be there, talk about things that are pressing, find out the things that are transpiring in your city, legislations that want to be passed. Many times you won't know about it until it's actually passed. But I say get out and be involved. Life is one. You have to invest your life, give your life fervently for the Lord, and He'll show you where to go. I'm reminded of Frederick Douglass. There's a quote that says, when asked by a young African-American boy, how should he impact the civil rights movement? When a young boy went up to Frederick Douglass. And who was Frederick Douglass? Frederick Douglass was a slave that he taught himself how to read. He was the first slave who wrote his own book. I had the book. And he taught himself how to read, and he was able to get out of slavery. He came here to Massachusetts. So he fought always for the rights to be free, and the rights for those to be free. He never stopped fighting. And so when asked by a young African-American boy in his later time, he said, how should he impact the civil rights movement? The young African boy asked Frederick Douglass, I think it was on the front steps, and he said 3 words. He said, agitate, agitate, agitate. Again, Frederick Douglass said 3 words. How can you impact the civil rights movement? He said, agitate, agitate, agitate. And in other words, he said, be persistent, get out there, get out, agitate, make a noise, say this is wrong. Don't be lackadaisical or laid back. This is a fight. Get in the fight. He said agitate. He agitated with his whole life. He knew what it was. He was a slave. He knew what he did. His mother died young. His siblings were gone, sold off. So he was a slave. And he was around the same time as Harriet Tubman. So he said agitate, agitate, agitate. So what are we saying? We got to get out of our comfort zone. We got to go down, do stuff that's uncomfortable. We got to make some noise respectfully. Respectfully. Martin Luther King says you can protest, but protest in love, not unlovingly. He also said, Frederick Douglass also said that every tone regarding slaves that were singing, every tone was a testament. Every song, every tone was a testament against slavery, and a prayer to God for deliverance from their chains. Every song, every tone. Now Frederick was in slavery. So Frederick Douglass also said that when the slaves were singing, It wasn't because they're happy. It says every tone was a testimony against slavery and a prayer to God for deliverance from their chains. So they always looked up to God. In every tone, God, he stayed before the slave stayed before God. Lord, I want deliverance. Lord, deliver us and our children. And they kept fighting and believing in God. And what are you agitating for? Are we agitating for a better parking spot? What are we agitating for as we go through our day? Like I said, we know our birthday. We don't know our end date. But what are you doing with the dash? What are you doing with what the most precious thing God has given us is this moment in time and life, and a steward of what God has given us. Yes, be the best worker, be the best father, mother, with children. In the middle of what you're doing, help, change, clean up as you go, because we are still the salt and light, and we are affecting those around us. As you can see, if we don't say things, darkness is just going to keep on being dark. And Tony Evans, the great preacher, said, don't expect, of course the darkness is going to fight you. You're in a fight, but you got to get in the fight. You have to expect darkness to come up against you. Or like you're in a football game, they're going to try to tackle you. That's the job. But are you in the game? And when I look and see the pervasiveness of just ladies dressing so provocatively, man, I know it's hard. We ain't wearing no clothes sometimes outside. I'm like, where are the women? Where are the mothers? God has made us beautiful inside and out. But now there's a perversion of just even how women are dressing. That's inappropriate. I used to teach people. I used to be a recruiter. You can't play coming in there for no interview. You ain't playing, right? So ladies, have that same respect as you go outside. Your body is a temple of the living Lord of God. And God gives you one. It ain't all on the outside. It's inside out. Yes, look nice, but women are looking too much outside, right? Too much outside. These crop tops or these tight pants. No, because we're following the fashion. For people who want to be different, we sure want to go with the crowd. We ain't nobody thinking. But where are the mothers, right? How young ladies should act, how young men should act. Because we only get one life. You get one life. And we have a choice on how we present ourselves to the world. And it's important how you look. I'll say it. Because I would tell my sister every time, no, you ain't wearing that, you ain't doing this. No. It's a sense of respectfulness, So that's one of the things. It's very important how you look. It's very important as you be respectful. But the Lord has made us in His image. I kind of digress on that. But it's very important how ladies look, the media, the music. It is just a pervasiveness that is just a lot. And you get these young kids growing up, like what to do, what to choose, where to go. It saddened me when I saw that the Obama girls, God bless them, coming from a Drake party. I would never think they were the Obama young ladies. She had a little halter, little top, belly sticking out. I'm like, that was Malia. I'm like, what happened to the gracefulness of being a woman and the elegance and the beauty of a woman? Now, don't get me wrong. There are beautiful young ladies, but we are pulling towards the culture. We're pulling towards what the world is doing, right? And that's where God says, come on among them. You got to be different. And I always call young ladies and men to be different. And quite frankly, when I was a recruiter at work, you had so many expectations, so many standards. Have those standards for yourself. Have those standards. When you walk in the room, God didn't make no junk. I tell all my nieces and nephews, they are a masterpiece because they're made in the image of the master. And God don't make junk. So don't walk around like you anyhow. You're not anyhow. God don't make junk. So when I see a young lady, young man, I always say, get your head up high. The Lord loves you. Dress like you're royalty, like you're a queen and king. Young men, don't be hanging all. Nope, dress up nice. Remember, I told the young men that. Can you pull up your pants? He said, why? I said, can you don't mind pull it up? All right. Glad he was nice to me, but no, it's important how you dress and how you behave. It's very important. And when I look back on all the people who did fight, who did say this was wrong and I'm going to do something about it. Do you know the boycott took a whole year of walking? The bus boycott with Martin Luther King. It took a whole year. And the civil rights movement was an economic movement. Martin Luther King says, okay, you might not respect my person, but you respect my money. Respect my money. So you know what I say? I said, listen, if you see this music that's really degrading, read it. Read the music. Us older people, let's help the younger people. Because they don't know. We got to be salt and light. It's just older people acting a mess, dressing a mess. I can see why younger people are doing what they're doing. When the older folks want to act like the young, right? When they want to act like the young. So us older people, let's tell the younger people, don't be listening to this music. Let's want something different. I say cease and desist. We're not with this. We ain't with this type of inappropriate music, inappropriate videos. Don't be watching these rated R movies and things that I see these Christian movies. Don't be going to that rated R. It's disrespectful. And if you look at Beyonce, she has a lot of occultic, demonic things. Christians should not be about that. And also, she's cursing in her music. Christians should be talking against that and showing young people what is the right path. I'm against all that. When you really look at that, and then when you really look back and peel back the onion, it ain't godly. Ain't no godly in it. And if it ain't godly in it, then we talk and say, don't do it. This is wrong, this is inappropriate. And keep agitating. Because the kids behind us are going to think it's fine. And they're going to continue on with it. So I say definitely talk against the music lyrics. You see the magazines up in there, all nasty, Cosmopolitan, all that foolishness. Pull it out. Say, I don't want this. The reason why you see so much foolishness is because a lot of church people are this. Silent. And when I see something nasty, some magazine, right, I said, this is inappropriate. This is inappropriate. How can we take this magazine out of here? What can we do? We had a women's movement. I forgot what it was called, but it was a hashtag women's movement. I forgot what it was called. But I'm all for, respecting women. I'm all for that. But we need a morality movement. We need young people to realize what's wrong and what's right and what's the standard, because now everything goes, and that's just inappropriate. It's very mounting at times, and when you look at it, you say, okay, what's the right step, or where's the step to go? Many times it's just talking with the manager. It's like, you know what, I don't want this magazine in here. Could you, and give a few more others, say, you know what, let's see how we can say, let's boycott this store if they can remove the magazine and go elsewhere. They did that with Target, with the children's clothes, with Pride Month and young children's clothes and all that. Target lost a lot of money. And it's no different from what Martin Luther King did with the civil rights movement. It was also an economics movement as well. So I think that's something that we can do. You see something, say something. Also, too, call the radio stations. Say cease and desist. We're not with this. We ain't with this. One of the most important things is your ear gate, your eye gate. You're not with this. And as Frederick Douglass said to the young boy, agitate. And are we agitating? You might be like, Jacqueline, I ain't got time to agitate. I'm trying to figure out my life, and for those who are trying to figure out their life, I'm with you. I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. Sometimes life can hit you hard, you know, and I've been there. Life can hit you hard, and sometimes you gotta sit on the sidelines and just gotta recoup and say, Lord, help me through. There's times like that. There's times like that. But as you move forward in life, look around. Look around and look at the landscape, and look at how we're leaving this world. It's almost like you're leaving your house. You make sure your house is appropriate. You make sure your house, what God has given you, that you're a good steward of what God has given you. Your car, all the things, your health. Am I a good steward? Are you a good steward in this generation, of the times you're living in now, that God allowed you to live in here? I said, Lord, you could have let me live in any other time. You allowed me to live in this one. Right? Am I a good steward of the generation that I'm living in now? Am I preaching? Am I showing what's right and wrong in this generation? Now you might say to me, Jacqueline, that's the job of the preacher. If you are children, if you're a child of God, it's all our responsibility. That's why the world is in it as it is. And if I remind you, you know the Salvation Army, you know that nonprofit organization, right? Christians started that. God bless that, right? The Red Cross, the word Red Cross, another Christian organization. Hospitals, us Christians been doing this for a long time. Now they're trying to edge us out. But if you hear your history, we're in everything. A lot of these colleges started off as missionary schools until they just edged out God. Keep edging out God. But God never went nowhere. We did. We got too educated for God. But God never went nowhere. Helping different organizations. If you look behind the history, you're gonna find Christians all over there. All over there. Now what happened? Now Christians. Now we should still be here. We should still be out in the culture. We should still be, like Martin Luther King said, that we should still be the thermostat that controls the mores of society. Christians always did that. Now we're called to be silenced. We should never be silenced. We speak the truth in love, but you gotta speak what God gave you a mouth for. Hands and eyes and all of that. Yes, enjoy the fruits of life that God has given us. Yes, enjoy the vacations and time with the family and all those things that God has given us. But clean this generation as you go. If more Christians would have stood up and stood out, there wouldn't be so much hot mess around. Did you know my mom always told me this. It took one person to stop praying in the schools. One atheist person. It stopped. Where were the Christians? Silent. Oh, I can't get involved in politics. But life is politics, right? Silent, right? Roe versus Wade, abortion. It took one person, right? We tried to fight a little bit, right? And now legalizing killing. That's all it is. Come on now. Now for certain situations, and I'm a woman, but if you look at many reasons why people are doing abortions, it's lifestyle. They ain't ready for it. Come on now. Ain't ready for it. You can't condone foolishness. And I'm a woman. If you look at the facts, it's very few rape and incest. Very, very minuscule. The majority is lifestyle. Come on now. The reason why God says have no sex before marriage, the laws God gives us is the law for everybody. He made this body. He knows exactly what it requires. When we choose not to, we're gonna choose the consequences. Whether you're a Christian or not, God's rules are the same. If I fall off a bridge, whether or not I pray or not, I'm going to fall down. That's law. So such thing as moral laws. So what I'm saying is that we all have a responsibility. And it saddens me because the world is the way the world is. It's not because darkness is showing up. Because darkness is always going to show up. That's the job of the darkness. But it's the job of the light to push back darkness. Same way, if you have a little child and a dog come and running to get that child, you gonna pick up that baby and fight that dog. Come on now, that's what we do, right? We ain't going to let the dog go get the baby. We gonna fight. We gonna fight that dog. Exactly. you know? So we have to do the same. And you might be like, but Jacqueline, what can I do? Find out what the legislations are. Find out what's transpiring in the school system. It can take one person, like one person going behind, just saying, no, this is wrong. This is wrong. Like I told you, Rachel Carson, she changed history there with the environment. It only takes one person. And God only needs one or two. It's the few. So I say, look and see where God has you. God has me with the music lyrics. I say, call the radio station. Say, cease and desist. We're not with this. We ain't with a culture of just shacking up, a culture of women half naked, grinding and doing some stuff in videos. It's all pornographic. And even soft porn. It's hard porn sometimes. And people just giving awards to that foolishness, and no one talking against it. So we need to talk against that, because your silence is agreeing to it, and we don't want to do stuff like that. So I say definitely get involved. Get involved in the school system. Take the time when you're gonna really say, okay, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do differently to make a difference? And who knows if God will use you as Esther for such a time as this. For such a time as this. If God has given us all our abilities, our senses, all our gifts, all our talents, what we gonna throw back at the end when God says, "Well done, thou good and faithful servant"? That I'm just living for the audience of one. The audience of one. What are we gonna tell the Lord? How have we used our gifts? Or how have we used our voice when God gonna position us in places, because God is a master chess player. God is a master chess player. He's gonna put you in boards. He's gonna put you in places to use your voice, to make a difference. Now, what are you gonna do? Depends. Now, it's up to us what we do with that time. And I say the school system start with the school system. Even if you might say, Jacqueline, I have no kids, that's okay. That's all right. You know, I don't have any kids either. But I have a lot of nieces and nephews. But just because I don't have any kids doesn't mean it's not my responsibility. So I'm your perfect person. And I'm coming 2 hours from here just to come here today because I must speak. We must do something. Get out of our comfort zones and really, really leave this world better for the kids coming today. And like I said, the dogs are all up on the kids. Look at the school system. How are you going to teach sexuality to third graders? Do you know they want to push that stuff to kindergartners, to preschoolers, talking about sexuality? And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that. We can't even get our A's and our B's in math and stuff when you want to talk about how many binaries and how you can be a boy today, a girl tomorrow. This is happening today on our watch, everybody. When I can't even spell Massachusetts. When you're younger, who can spell that? But this is what's happening on our watch today. And we respectfully in love have to disagree and say, let's just leave that for the parents. But nowadays, it's no longer agreeing and disagreeing respectfully. It's a totality takeover. It's my way or the highway. We're no longer becoming tolerant. Us Christians are becoming the ones who are, when we have an opposing view, respectfully, a biblical view, we're the ones looked at now as we are the crazy people. Well, we follow the Lord. We follow the Lord's standard. And God made them male and female. And now one of the things that I think Miss Linda Thayer, who came up, and this is one of the things that we need to do, is definitely log on to Mass Family Institute, because they need a petition to the Department of Early Secondary Education, talking about a petition to stop the onslaught of this sexualized curriculum for kids that they want to mandate for the whole Massachusetts. That's what Ms. Thayer was talking about. And we respectfully, in love, disagree with the notion of trying to talk about sexuality early with kids. But it's gone to the point that it's not only that. It's gone to the point that it is more like indoctrination. It's usurping the roles of the parents and saying this is what we want to teach your children without you having the opportunity to opt out anymore. And it's become so that you're going to ask third graders, I think I have that here. And this is something that we need to do as Christians. And this is what I mean. School is hard enough without learning about all this sexualized information. But under the Comprehensive Health Care Act, they're trying to do a new framework for the whole Massachusetts. And again, last time I checked, we're still a democracy. We still have the right to respectfully say we don't want this or we don't want that. But under this new framework, if passed, kindergartners will learn about their genitalia. Kindergartners. Man, you don't even know your colors. And it's the parents who decide when they have that conversation. Third graders, under this act, if it's passed, will discuss that they may not be the right gender when they're born. Third graders. What are we talking about? 7, 8 years old? Still in imagination, you know? I mean, I was a tomboy growing up with my brothers, up in trees and stuff. You know, I mean, it's sad. Third graders will discuss they may not be the gender that they were born. This is under this new framework. They can talk about the different genders. Maybe you're not a boy, maybe you're not a girl. And also sixth graders will learn how to get birth control. Sixth graders. This is like 11 years old, 11, 12. And ninth graders, 14, 15, will learn the benefits of sexual behavior. And all that goes into it. So really digressing into that. Also, too, Mass Family Institute, which is a great resource. They're also talking about a calendar of events for this whole school year, of talking about sexuality for the whole school year, not just Pride Month, but talking about pansexuality, just being open to different sexualities, and learning about all different types of sexual behaviors. For us adults here, boggles our mind. Us adults boggles our mind. We're just looking at this with our mouth dropped. And this is what we're feeding our kids. The Bible says, when I was a child, I thought as a child. But when I grew up, I put away childish things. So we're telling little children, let's put our common sense hat on. They can't drive. They can't drink till you're 21, right? You can't drink till you're 21. You can't even join the army till you're about 18, adult 21. You can't drive until you're 21, right? But we're going to tell little kids you can switch your gender in third grade, right? You're going to say you have the right to say how many sexualities you can have without affecting them or confusing them, and then you're going to put a test grade in front of them. These are the dogs coming up on the kids. And us adults have to come up and take the dogs off. That's foolishness. I'll say it. That's straight up foolishness. And this is indoctrination. And they want to start in some states in preschool, even talking about genitalia and all those things. And this is also too without parental consent. Before you can opt out, now you can't opt out your child out of these things. And this is in Massachusetts. This is called the Comprehensive Health Physical Education Framework. That's what Ms. Thayer was talking about, trying to sound the alarm. It's talking about having abortions without parental consent, abortion without having parental consent, and how to access abortion, how to access birth control as young as 11 without parents really knowing. What this is saying is taking the rights of parents away from the parents and putting it in the state. And then the consequences will be the parents. And the emotional heartache will be the parents. And the money and the long-term effects of all this foolishness will be the parents. So I say, parents, you have to stand up. You have to stand up. You got to remove the dogs coming towards the children. And as Christians, we are the watchmen. You don't have you don't have children, then you're the aunties and the uncles. Get up and get out and tell them that's foolishness. Let the parents be the parents and have the responsibilities of parenting. Because when all's said and done, that's your child. And you're going to deal with the long-standing effects of wolves on your children. Because that's foolishness. I'm not calling them wolves, but I'm calling the effects of that. And this is what's happened when Christians stay silent. It's just a looming cloud. And you might say, but Jacqueline, aren't you being a little restrictive? Aren't you not being loving? Aren't you not being progressive and a progressive Christian? Matthew 7:14. Narrow is the way that leads to eternal life, God's way, and few that find it. Broad is the way that leads to foolishness, to destruction. You choose. Like Joshua told the children of Israel, choose this day you serve. If it's God, follow God's way. Fight for the kids. Fight for what's right. It breaks my heart how foolish we're becoming. And it's not the adults they're going after. They're going after little babies and little kids. And then they're going to say, parents, you don't have the right to that. And then it's going to come like Christian parents, your ideology is wrong. You say respectfully, no, I disagree. And you say why? And I say that one or two people can make a difference. I take sexuality out of the classroom. That's to the parents. With enough media and stuff, kids will figure it out. We did okay as we grew up, but now the kids, this is on the agenda. This is the curriculum. This is the lifestyle. And a lot of parents are rising up and saying we don't want this, but they're still pushing it. They're still saying this is what we want for you, for your kids. And then you got to deal with all the consequences. You got to deal with emotional scars. You got to deal with years of long-standing confusion because someone comes in when they're 7, 8 years old saying, "Oh, you could maybe be a girl." Oh yeah, really? How you gonna say it to a little kid that's forming in your head? And yet these are what adults are agreeing to. And then not only that, then comes the surgery, then comes the gender assignment. Then comes the mutilation. What are we talking about? Boys and girls, girls and boys. But yet the church is this. Silent. Silent. How dare we be silent? How dare we be silent as the kids are offered to convenience of this culture? How dare we be silent? We cannot be silent. We cannot be silent. No, we won't be popular, but you can't be silent. So I say go out. You say respectfully, say we don't want this. Look for schools that don't do it. Pull your kids out. Look for schools that don't do it. Push for schools. I don't want sexuality. It's hard enough for us competing against China, against other worlds without this foolishness. Without this foolishness. So this is one of the things that I need you to combat against. The Mass Family Institute, there's a petition on there to say we do not want this. And I definitely say to go on there, Mass Family Institute. They're an excellent clearinghouse, a Christian clearinghouse. They're the ones who bring all this up. This one and also Mass Citizens for Life that Miss Linda Thayer was on was about. She's also on that board there, and as darkness comes out, light is greater than darkness. It always has, but light has to show up and show out. And we need to show up and show up for our kids. We need to, in this generation, push back the forces of darkness. And one of them, besides the music lyrics, is in the school systems. It's in the school systems. And even if you don't have any kids, grandparents, you show up and show out. You go there, grandparents. You do what you need to do. And I always say that that even if you're the only person there, you show up. You show up and show out because it's worth it for the kids. Let's go back and remember when we were little. trying to figure out the bullies in school, right? You're feeling awkward, trying to fit in with the cool people. You're trying to feel awkward. You're trying to graduate. You might have stuff going on at home. Life is hard when you're a young person. And you're looking for those adults that can protect you. You know, you always remember that one or two teachers that would protect you against foolishness, right? But what's happening here? This has become institutionalized foolishness coming up. Teaching 8th graders, 3rd graders, you can discuss what gender, that they're born maybe at the wrong gender. What kind of foolishness? 6th graders behind your parents' back, how to get birth control, and all that goes into that. Trying to do right. And so this is the time that Christians, we need this is one of the defining moments of our generation. And quite frankly, if we don't try to curtail or close back this door a little bit further, it's just going to open wide up, and we don't want that. So as Christians, I say, let's be light. Let's respectfully say, we don't want, you know, I don't even know why you got to be teaching sexuality in school. That's the parents or grandparents. We did fine without it. It's hard enough trying to pass these tests. And then figuring out, you learning to, you know, where you want to grow in life or go in life. So I say, as God has given us the strength, God has given us the strength, and as we see these young people coming in, older people, aunties, uncles, have that sense of responsibility, that sense of dread that I need to protect these kids. I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to give you a story. I was outside my house. I'll probably wrap up with this. Outside my house, these 2 young girls fighting on the way to school. I'm hearing a lot of yelling early in the morning. On the way to school, I see the uniforms. And I'm like, and they're going at it. I'm like, what's going on? Everybody stayed inside. Now, I'm new to the area. I'm like, what's going on here? I went outside. Girls, stop fighting. I look like a hot mess because I just woke up, but I didn't care. Girls, stop fighting. That's too much. I saw an older lady taking a picture, watching the girls fight. These girls had to be like 15, 16. And I didn't really see what's going on here. And she's watching the girls fighting. And the friend was trying to break them up. Stop fighting, stop fighting. They were going at it. I'm like, girls, stop fighting, stop fighting. And they calmed down, they stopped fighting. I go inside, I thought everything was okay. Now, everybody else was home. But they were fighting in front of my street. And these were young kids, so I had to break it up. I had to do something. I'm the adult here. So then I go back in. All of a sudden, I hear pick up again. And I'm looking out my window, and now I see the older lady, who's around my age, taking a picture and stopping the friend from them, letting them fight. Said, no, let them fight. The older lady. I'm like, what in the world? She's an instigator. The older lady was saying to the friend, no, let those 2 girls fight. Let them fight. Because she's sitting down and taping this. I'm like, oh, I see what's going on. So what did I do? I was ready inside my home, had to get ready for work. What did I decide to do? Let me go back outside. I was the only person. I said, let me get my coat on, my hat, had a little wrap on my head. I didn't care how I looked. I went right back outside again. Then I said, stop fighting. Stop that. That's enough. No more fighting. Then I spoke to the girl, that old woman, in Spanish, because I spoke Spanish. I said, leave that girl alone. Stop taping that. Stop that. Stop telling them to fight. She got shocked. I said, stop doing that. She went away, and it stopped. So what I say, as morality moves, we got to fight. Get in the fight. Stop that. You have the voice. God's stopping this in front of you. You decide to stop that too. So thank you so much for listening to me. I will be back next Sunday from 3 to 4. God bless you, and stay in the fight. Tell them cease and desist. We ain't with this. God bless you, and have a great Sunday.